Computer. There we are. So, good morning, everybody. It's Harry Rogers here from Cymru and Codi Congo. This is going to be the second of our three interviews with candidates for the 2026 Senedd elections. And today's candidate is Tessa Marhall, and she's the second Wales Green Party candidate for Cardiff Penarth. So, good morning, Tessa.
Morning, bore da.
Thank you. Right, so I'm going to ask you the same questions that I'm going to be asking all of the different candidates in this little process. And the first one is a general one to start. Over a period of about 3 years, Cymru and Codi and the Cymru Radical Left Dialogue before it, as eco-socialist cross-party independence political movements, have gradually developed the production of an aim which says production for the needs of people, planet and peace, and not profit. So the first question is, to what extent do you and your party support this?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's a brilliant aim. I think it's a brilliant statement. And I think it's something that I absolutely stand in solidarity with. I know the Green Party, the Wales Green Party, would absolutely agree with this statement. And I think it really neatly encompasses actually like how simple and straightforward the goals of the future need to be, because it is literally people, planet, peace. Like that is what we're aiming for as a society, as communities, because we know that the current system is inherently exploitative, it's extractive, and it is causing immense harm to people in Wales. The last 10, 20, 30 years, you know, probably could go even further than that, in terms of the way that the capitalist global economy has exploited Wales and then just abandoned us. And I think for us as the Green Party, we are laying out a manifesto which is really inherently looking to address the kind of the harms that system has caused our communities in Wales, and not only, excuse me, our communities, but actually our land, our rivers, our fresh water and our seas as well. And the communities across the globe who are impacted by the production which happens in Wales, which is fueling wars across the world. We know that white phosphorus is produced in Wales, for example. You know, there's arms factories in Wales, and our pensions are actually, in some cases, invested in oil companies and gas companies, and actually in arms companies as well. So as the Green Party, we would be looking to not only deliver action to address the kind of immediate cost of living crisis, which is being fueled by global capitalism, which is now being just, you know, it's awful the way that the current war in Iran, which is supported by Washington and Westminster, is actually going to make the cost of living crisis much worse for people in Wales. Our manifesto looks to deliver action in the immediate case, from literally the first day to deliver rent freezes, to deliver £1 buses, to actually invest in a retrofit program, and then actually look at the systemic changes that we need to deliver in Wales so that we're no longer beholden to this system of extraction.
Well, thanks for that. That was a very full answer. To move on to more specific parts of the programme that we've outlined, in terms of people, you've seen our headline aims in our short flyer, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at the detailed demands and policies in the full programme. So, question two is, how close do you think your party comes to taking these demands and policies forward? For example, on housing, we propose removing all profit from housing, public ownership of development land and construction, council housing, controlled rent, assured tenancy for life-ending homelessness, and a constitutional right to a home.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, carry on. Yeah.
thank you. So in terms of the wider policy aims, I was actually involved in establishing I think it's the Climate and Nature program for Cymru Codi. The program is something that is really close to my heart because it's recognizing that climate and nature and social and environmental justice are actually interconnected, and we can't kind of address the climate crisis without addressing the nature crisis, resolving the nature crisis, which sees 1 in 5 species in Wales be at risk of extinction. It's absolutely abhorrent. We're going to likely see the extinction of salmon from our rivers in Wales in the next 10, 20 years if we don't take immediate action. So that is an area which, is close to my heart, close to the part, obviously the foundation of the party as the Green Party. In terms of housing, the Green Party actually passed a policy to make landlords obsolete in our most recent, well, not our most recent, in our October conference last year, because we believe that the private landlord system has failed. It has caused Wales to have some of the mouldiest, some of the coldest, some of the oldest housing stock in the UK. And I mean, it's absolutely abhorrent. It's not just making people, it's not just taking money out of people's pockets, but it's actually making people sick as well and actually causing the NHS to have increased costs. We know if we could retrofit homes in Wales, for example, by insulating them properly, by making sure every home in Wales had double glazing, then we would actually be bringing the costs in the NHS down. We would be reducing the numbers of admissions to hospitals and to GPs because less people would be sick because you wouldn't be breathing in mold spores. So in terms of the actual, the constitutional right to a home, I think that's something that we would as a party support. I don't think it's not in the manifesto. I wouldn't go that far to say that. But in terms of looking at the constitution itself in Wales, I believe that's a piece of work that needs to happen. The manifesto doesn't go that far. I don't think it's a priority at this point. But in terms of actually making sure that everyone has a home, a healthy home that keeps them safe, that is not costing them the earth and is actually accessible, that's really important, which is why we've got a policy for having 60,000 social homes built in the next 10 years in Wales, because we know the current system is not working for people.
Okay, thank you. We move on now to question 3, and this question is on saving the planet. You may have noticed that we argue for a net zero emissions target by 2030. Well, this is a tough ask, but so is climate collapse. We argue that it is needed to concentrate minds on action and not fine words. So question 3 is, would you and the Green Party support this target?
So for me, I fully support that target. It's a target that I've been supportive of since it was introduced at the international stage, I think 15 years ago. It's a truly unfortunate reality that we're unlikely to reach that without significant investment and action. Regardless, taking swift action to bring down emissions is crucial, and making sure that if we're not reaching the 2030 target, we're reaching a 2035 target or a 2040 target. Look, actually, I'm not even going to say that 2035 target, because 2035, I believe, it shouldn't be seen as ambitious. That's only that's 9 years away. We're already going some ways to meeting these emissions reductions. And if we implement a program of retrofitting homes, if we make sure that there's enough electric car chargers around Wales, which we know is an issue at the moment, if we make sure that the sustainable farming scheme is properly implemented to actually bring agricultural emissions down instead of allowing them to continue to rise, which is the only sector in Wales where emissions is actually rising, is in agriculture. So making sure that we have a strong sustainable farming scheme that is actually sustainable and not just a farming scheme is actually critical to making sure that we achieve these targets. So for me, it's not just about the kind of the big wind farms, which, you know, they have a part in this whole system. There is definitely a role for these big renewable energy projects to play, but it's not just about that. It's actually about community energy as well, putting energy in people's hands.
Thank you. Okay, so we move on to the fourth question, and this question is particularly of interest at the moment. It's very pertinent. Imperialist genocide, death and destruction is clearly part of current capitalism, and the horrors are daily. And we believe that it is a political imperative for the Senedd and the Welsh Government to take a stand against militarism and for welfare, not warfare. So the question is, to what extent do you think the Senedd should do this? Would you take a personal stand?
So I unequivocally support this pledge. I think it's absolutely crucial. I think we can't ignore the impact that Wales has on the global stage, and the impact that we could have in terms of leading a drive towards peace instead of global militarism. I think in terms of the manifesto for the Green Party, something that I've been very clear about is that I want to see an investment in peace and not in war. I think that by investing in our education, investing in training, investing in nature and climate, actually creating quality local jobs where people are investing and support paid to support their communities rather than sort of paid to go and deliver exploitation, war and genocide, which is what the current system, as you've outlined, is rewarding, is unequivocally something that we must do with deepest urgency. I have a master's degree in international law and politics. I had a focus on international humanitarian law and environmental law for my dissertation. And for me, the behaviour of the UK government, the behaviour of the US government, and the behaviour of Israel absolutely constitutes something that should be prosecuted at the international level. You know, Keir Starmer providing weapons and failing to sanction Israel could be interpreted as a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. And what is happening in Gaza is unequivocally a genocide. What is happening in Lebanon is, and if it's not addressed, could become a genocide. And what could happen to Iran now could become a genocide if we do not take action as Wales, but also as the UK. So, yeah, this is 100% on my agenda and I will be pushing for it within the Green Party, but also when I'm elected. I'm saying when I'm elected, but in the Senedd as well.
Thank you. So the fifth question is the premise before it is Cymru and Codi is an eco-socialist movement that supports an independent and Republican Cymru, both as a democratic aim, but also as a main way of being part of challenging the power of capital and meeting the needs of people, planet and peace. So do you support Cymru independence? And if so, why? And how can the question be raised in the Senedd over the next 4 years?
So it's a big question, but fundamentally, I support Welsh independence. I believe that it's absolutely crucial for us to remove ourselves from Westminster because Westminster is a system which has delivered imperialism global colonialism for hundreds of years. It's doing it to us with the economy. It's doing it to countries across the world by using the global economy. And there's no appetite for Westminster to change. You know, I think if there was an appetite in England to look at the constitution of the United Kingdom, I would maybe be malleable to a federal system. But there is no constitutional appetite or appetite to have any kind of constitutional conversation at the UK level. And as a result, I feel strongly that Wales has to take action to make sure to bring ourselves out of this system, which is causing immense harm to people in Wales. Like the most likely person in Wales to be living in poverty right now is a child under the age of 4. So like that is the system that we are living within, and that is the system that Westminster is just very happy with. So we need to take action to address that. In terms of the next Senedd, the way that I see it, this Senedd is not about Welsh independence. This Senedd is about delivering a foundation for a future where we're no longer beholden to Westminster and the whims of politicians outside of Wales or the international system, economic system. The way that I see it, we need to pursue the devolution of some key areas so that we can create a strong foundation for the future. And for me, these key areas are policing and justice. They are research and development, water, broadcasting, and the Crown Estate. I know there's some other areas that are in contention, such as the welfare system. I haven't done my research into those, so I don't want to include them, but I believe they're worth mentioning. All of these areas are areas where under Barnett consequentials, we could actually deliver quite a strong system, which focuses on, say, restorative justice, which focuses on investment in peace, like we've discussed, investment in nature restoration, climate and insulation, as well as creating a strong civic society in Wales. Because if we go independent too soon, we really run the risk of actually like tanking our economy, not having like a strong society, not having a strong civic base, which could actually address some of the challenges that will emerge if we do go independent. You know, we could be facing sort of rogue state actors and all of those kind of whims of the international stage if we do not have a kind of strong civic base. So I think it's really, really important that we focus on creating that strong base in Wales, which we know we don't have. We know, like, with the change in the electoral system, for example, like 60% of people in Wales don't know that that's even changed. So how can we talk about going independent when we can't even talk about the current electoral system with the majority of people in Wales? So I think there's work to be done to create a strong foundation which could take us towards independence, but is not actually independence itself, because we know the current system needs to change. And with these kind of 5 areas, I believe that that would not only bring money into Wales, it would bring resources, it would bring jobs, it would actually make sure that people in Wales can stay in Wales and have a good quality job. And it would also address some of the crises that we are experiencing, say, in the justice system, where in Wales we have one of the highest rates of incarceration of black men in Europe. Like, we're one of the least diverse countries, and that is, you know, a fact. We've seen in Cardiff several experiences of police violence, which resulted in deaths following interactions with the police, included Mahmoud Hassan, Moyed Bashir, Leighton Jones, all working class people. 2 of them were black men, and you know, so there are crises in our communities that really need addressing before we kind of go towards full independence, but we can go some way to get in there while addressing those crises.
Well, that was very comprehensive. Thank you very much, Tess. It's been very
Thank
nice
you.
to meet you, and I hope that we get to meet in person sometime and have a chat. That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you very much.
No,
And
diolch yn fawr.
yeah, diolch yn fawr. And I hope that people will take what's been said today and take it seriously and think about it when they're going to cast their vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.